Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with Nolan Hong. And joining me this week on the podcast, he's an old friend. In fact, you might have remembered him from 5 years ago when we had him all the way back on episode 14. Can you guys imagine that? 14 seems like such a long time ago, but it's been a little while since I've gotten to catch up with him. And he's got some really exciting things going on in his life. So I wanted to take this opportunity to, one, catch up with an old friend, but at the same time, let you guys in on the conversation because he's one of my special friends. I just love talking story with him, and he's been a real joy in my life. So I want to have him back on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back our old friend, Dr. Lenny Cocco. Hey, Lenny.
Nolan, how are you, brother? Oh. I haven't had that big a cheer in a long time.
Have you actually? I mean, you used to do like public speaking in large crowds and stuff before earlier in your career, right? You said
Long time. Yes, all over the world, but mostly all over the country. Yeah.
And so for those who didn't have the luxury or forgot, because 5 years ago was a long time to have you on.
I forgot.
Yeah. So what were you doing that gave you that opportunity to go traveling around the world and doing these speaking engagements? What were you talking about?
So I became a chiropractor in 1985, 86, and practiced chiropractic. And then years later, I decided my real calling was to be a teacher. And so I wanted to teach chiropractors how to do their practice and how to work with patients, how to adjust patients, and communicate really how to, because what you say and how you are with people, I think is way more important than just your adjustment. You have to like really have that special bond with somebody, and so that's what I was kind of teaching I always say that, your practice is a direct reflection of your inner self. And so if you can kind of heal self and be really good with self, well, then your practice and your communication, your being with people will really go. So I was teaching chiropractors how to do that all over the country for 17 years. And I would teach 20, 30 seminars a year for those 17 years. And then, of course, I got invited to speak at the conventions and this and that, So, yeah, I was in front of people all the time doing public speaking. And then I moved to Hawaii, and that's when I met you and some friends here and kind of retired. What happened was the 2008 or 2010, really, when I retired, was internet. And the recession, so nobody wanted to go to hotels or pay for a real seminar. They just wanted to do it online. And so that whole internet seminar business, all that kind of just blew up. And I went all online and did, I don't know if Zoom, no, it was GoToMeeting back then is what I used to use. And did all that. And then I just decided I could just retire from everything and just go to Hawaii and do my GoToMeetings in Hawaii. And that's when I met you.
It's so funny that you say retired, yet knowing you for the last several years, like you're just as busy, if not more busy than most non-retired people. You're always busy doing stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens, but a project tends to find its way to my little brain, and there you go. I'm doing a project, and I love it. I really like being busy, and so that's what I do. And I'm not that busy anymore. It has slowed down since the VIRUS, but that's also been good. I've been really focusing on my body and my mind, and meditating a lot, and doing a lot of yoga. Eating really, really good, which is what we're going to talk about today, and really learning about that and, that kind of stuff. So it's been really powerful to have this time to slow down and, be with self.
Yeah. Did you find for the, this pandemic, these last 3 years now, did that have a hand in helping you slow down and get this opportunity to kind of look more towards yourself? Or what was it that caused this opening, I guess, for you to go, hey, let me just take care of me now?
Yeah, no, totally. It was completely the pandemic because nature abhors a vacuum. And so, and That's been my life. If I have a little vacuum in there, it gets filled with something. And if you don't, and I always say this, if you don't create what you want to fill the vacuum with, the
Hmm.
universe is going to fill it for you. And generally, the universe fills it with traumatic experiences or something that you may or may not like. And so, what I know is that if I have a vacuum, which the pandemic created a vacuum, that I wanted to fill it with something that I wanted to fill. So I created my life. I created your life is as you see it. So I wanted to see my life a certain way. So I started really thinking about, what can I do to take care of myself to the utmost ability while we're doing this pandemic. And so I always meditated, I always did yoga, but we did it even more intensely. Is that the right way to say it? Not even,
Hmm.
that's not the right way because it wasn't intense, but we did more of it, I should say.
Yeah, maybe more
Um,
frequently.
More frequently, yes.
Yeah.
And so I just really did focus on myself, and that included diet, that included exercise, that included relationship. I mean, it encompassed all of me. And so, yeah, it just brought me inside to decide what it is that I wanted to do with my life. And one of the things that was really pressing was my health.
Hmm.
67 years old, pretty darn good shape. I mean, I'm one of those crazy people that likes to exercise. So I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you've been, what's in the water over there, but yeah, you're one of the few crazies that I've
I'm
always known. You're always active, biking, swimming, yoga, like so much.
always. I
Yeah.
That's like some people have hobbies of, whatever, crossword puzzles or whatever. My hobby is exercise. I exercise 3 hours or so a day.
Wow.
And different days of intensity. Sometimes I just go for a stroll. Sometimes I swim and just, bob up and down the water. I mean, so it's not intensely even, but I spend
Hmm.
time and I meditate for an hour and whatever. So we'll get into all
Yeah.
that more detail, but I like spending time on self. And so I noticed that when I was doing that, that certain foods and it was mostly the food wasn't working for me. And I also noticed that I started having these symptoms. I'm 67, so I was starting to say that I'm 67, really great, but blood pressure was inching up a little bit. You can't see it anymore, but maybe a little bit red here. I got a little skin cancer on both sides of my face.
Oh,
I had a
wow.
lot of symptoms, like lots of little symptoms. Like we'll go into that in more detail in a minute. Almost knocked my notes down. Um, but I decided that I needed to do something about those symptoms, and because last thing I wanted to do was get into the medical model. You start getting on a statin, and then you get low blood pressure med, and then you get this med, and then you get that med. Before you know it, you're on
Hmm.
5 different meds, and now you're in the system. You're doing, your day as a retired person is taken up with visiting the doctors.
Right, right.
I don't want to have any, even though I'm a doctor, I don't want to have anything to do with that. So I started investigating, like, what do I need to do to get my health like to that place where I'm not on any meds. And so I really started looking at that.
And as far as, because even before this, I had always known you to be really conscious of your diet and your health. Like you cut out all kinds of stuff, like cut out sugars and things. And you actually helped me a lot because I was in a similar journey where I was trying to really cut down on foods that were lending to a lot of health issues for myself. And so you were very encouraging of like, yep, I'm right there with you. And like cutting out this food and that food. And these are things that will agitate your gut and your system and stuff. Um, so knowing that you've already had a lot of that intention and knowledge about foods, what did you learn that in this process that was different from what you had already known before, that was so impactful for you to help with these symptoms that you're starting to see?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, I have to go back to 40 years ago when I really started my venture on food. So I
Hmm.
was, in my 20s, and I was noticing, really, I can even go back before that and saw my family on food, but I wasn't as conscious about it then. But in my 20s, I started getting really conscious about alcohol, sugar, you know, eat a gallon of ice cream after you did that ganja thing, and you'd feel like crap for 3 or 4 or 5, So I started like noticing the patterns, and so when I was and then I got really involved in some spiritual practices, and they were all about being vegetarian. So then I started learning about that. So here I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was really getting off a lot of sugars and carbohydrates back then, right? And
Hmm.
becoming more vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for 10 years. But at the same time, as I was exercising, I was doing judo, jujitsu, yoga, running every day, lifting weights. I mean, I was really active then too. Chiropractic, so you're standing all day in my office. Um, and I was in pretty good shape. And then I got injured when I was 40. So I had this journey. The reason I'm saying all of that is because I've had this journey about food and exercise, which then got to where I was, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when I came here. And I whittled it down to, vegetarian primarily, chicken and fish a little bit. I had meat once a year when I go home and visit my mother. Um, and then I got into these protein shakes: spirulina, maca root, pea protein, with maybe some chia seeds. But that was kind of like what was giving me my protein, because I could never totally live on vegetarian. I'm a pretty big guy, so I definitely needed more protein. So the spirulina fed me. I mean, I ate a lot of spirulina. And that was kind of what I was sharing. I noticed that I would drop weight. My body would feel better when I ate lots and lots of spirulina and vegetables. So that was where I got to. But after a while, like, that kind of plateaued, and the feelings that I was having in my body, I was doing okay, but I
Yeah.
wasn't improving. And so I wanted to find a way to improve where I was, not just be okay.
And so when you started to notice like these new symptoms were popping up and such, do you did you know why they were coming about?
Because I was getting older, of course.
So that's all it was, is that your body's starting to come up with new things that just come with
Well,
age?
I was looking at, that's right. That's what my brain was telling me, because I was looking around at all the people that were my age, and they were, popping up with high blood pressure, and they were popping up with, they got to be on a statin, and they were popping up with little cancers here. And all my friends had cancers removed all over the place. And
Oh wow.
they were coming up with skin that wasn't, was really sensitive. And hell, I never shaved because my skin here was so sensitive when I shaved.
Oh
Now I know why. You know why your uncle never shaved, is because when he shaved, it was
man.
so sensitive. Like, I used to
Which is
wonder
odd.
why.
Yeah, because their skin looks so rugged and tough and weathered, but um, yeah, it's the
I
opposite,
could,
right?
I could show you pictures. My skin looks rugged and tough, and it was really sensitive.
Oh wow.
I wouldn't shave for a week at a time, because every time I shaved, it was painful. I mean, I just had
Mm.
this sensitivity. Even after putting aloe vera and cream and all that stuff on it, I couldn't heal it. So that's why, again, so my uncle told me something, and this was what I remember too. He said, "Oh, when you're in your 60s, it's awesome. Your mind is better. You're stable. You're not doing the ups and downs. You're already successful or not, and so you're living. You're going to live with who you are,
Hmm.
and you're great. Your health is totally great. You hit your 70s, and all of a sudden, like what I was saying, now you're doing a statin. Now you're doing a high blood pressure med. Then you hit your 80s, and now lots of things are starting: macular degeneration, cataracts, all the stuff, diabetes, all the stuff is. So I'm in my late 60s thinking, well, what he told me is true. I'm starting to see my blood pressure was ticking up. Things were starting to happen to me. So I was like, I got to pay attention.
That's so scary to think of, in the sense of, you, I thought, was like kind of the epitome of health, the so much exercise, eating healthy and all that stuff, and to see that you still because of when you started hitting that age, it's starting to see all of these things come up. It's like I used to laugh when I saw someone wore this T-shirt once that said like, exercise daily, eat healthy, die anyway. It's like, as I know that your story gets better, but right now I'm just like, oh, like why are we trying so hard? Look at Letty, he did so
Yeah.
well, and he still got this. But I have a feeling that things changed for you, right? Because I know you don't just sit in your laurels and like, I guess this is the way it is. Knowing you, you're like, okay, there's got to be a better way. Let me go do my research and get some work done, right?
Yeah, and we'll talk all about that in just a minute. But I want to say that everything is impermanent. So I know I'm going to, get sick and die. But here's how I want to do it. I want to go fun, 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 dead.
I want to make that
And
a shirt.
that Abraham Hicks, if you know Abraham Hicks, that's one of her phrases. Fun, 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 dead. And I've imbibed that. I'm taking that on. That's how I want to go. But I will say that if you have metabolic disease, which really is insulin resistance, which really is diabetes, you are not going to die like that. You are going to die a slow death. And that diabetes is a slow, painful, agonizing death. And so I didn't want any part of that. And so that's what I was noticing, that I was heading towards metabolic disease. And there's a whole list of symptoms with metabolic disease, the bigger belly. We'll go into it, but I know that that's a slow death. And so that was what I wanted, because I'm not afraid to die. You're going to die, you're going to die, whatever. We're all going to die. Everybody's going to die. But what I am afraid of, and what I definitely do not want to do, is have that slow decline. And I don't mind a slow decline over 6 months. I mean, that's okay. But I don't want a slow decline over 10 years. I
Yeah.
mean, how many people do you know that live for 10 years in that screwed up state? And I don't want any part of that.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a life here, you might as well have it be as enjoyable for as long as you can, and doing simple things like taking care of your body can make that possible, right?
Yeah, and that's right. And you just have to find out what those simple things are, that you can do, and we can. So I found something that really works for me, and I'm going to talk all about it in just a moment. But that's
Yeah,
really
no,
what.
let's get into that because what was interesting to me was when we kind of started catching up over text, you're talking about how you're doing this carnivore diet, which I've only heard of in name. I never actually you know, learned what that meant. I just know, oh, that's another kind of diet out there. Like, there's keto and vegan, carnivore. So that's also why I wanted to have you on here, because I thought I was gonna go, what is that? But then it's like, you know what? I bet a lot of people would have the same kind of questions I do. So I thought, let's just do this on the podcast and let's talk about this. So
Yeah.
maybe if you could share with me a little bit about first, before we get into carnivore, like how you found your way to this.
Yeah. Well,
Do we call it a diet? Is it considered a diet or?
Well, yes and no. So
Okay.
I think we're calling it a diet just for keeping it simple, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But and some people do use it as a diet because it's a really great way to lose weight if you want to lose weight really fast.
Mm.
And those people use it as a diet. But I particularly feel, and I hope this is true for me, that it's now my way of eating for the rest of my life, because I just feel
Yeah.
so freaking amazing that it's no longer a diet, it's a way I'm eating. But I'll tell you how I got started. I got started
Yeah.
because of two things. Way back in the day, I was 40 years old, and I'm not going to tell you exactly why I know how come it was. It was actually 39 years and 11 months. I won't tell you the whole story about that, but it was like a specific point I can point to. Somebody told me that I need to do the Atkins diet. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember the Atkins, but basically the
Oh, I do.
Atkins
Yeah.
diet is all meat, just eat meat.
Mhm.
And so I thought he was crazy at the time because I was vegetarian, but he healed a whole bunch of stuff. He was a very close friend of mine. And I was a little overweight and blah, blah, blah. So I decided, absolutely, I'm going to try the the Atkins diet. And I did the Atkins diet for a while, and I lost all the weight, and I felt amazing doing the Atkins diet. I mean, it just felt amazing. Now, for me, the problem with the Atkins diet was there was the first stage where you just eat meat, and then they had the second stage where you start introducing foods. Well, what I didn't know about myself, well, I kind of knew about it, but I am what's called carb addicted. What that means is that if you put a piece of carbohydrate in front of me, or a chocolate bar or whatever, something sugary or sweet in front of me, I'm eating it. So I'm just going to eat it. I cannot let that chocolate bar sit there. So like for the example is that my wife is a moderator, right? So she could take a chocolate bar, eat a little piece of it, put it on the counter, and the next day eat another piece of it. Not me. I get that chocolate bar, it's consumed. If I get that bag of chips, I'm eating it. If you get that pint of ice cream, it's gone. So I'm carb addicted. So the Atkins said, hey, eat this meat. I felt amazing. And then you reintroduce carbohydrates and vegetables and different things back to your diet. Well, the second I reintroduced carbohydrates, I was carb addicted. I was right back to gaining weight and feeling crappy again. So that was kind of where I was coming from. Now, fast forward 30 years or 25 years, and I had a really good friend that started doing the carnivore diet this past year, 2022, January 10th. And he was a couple 100 pounds overweight. And within a couple of months, he lost like 80 pounds, like really fast. But more importantly than losing weight, because I didn't have to lose that much weight. I just had to lose 10 pounds or so. But more importantly, he was off his metformin. He was off his high blood pressure med. He was off something else. And his doctors were like saying, I don't know what you're doing. And he said, well, I'm eating carnivore. And they said, no, you're lying to me. You're doing something different. And they didn't believe him that he was just eating carnivore. And he got off all those meds and lost 80 pounds in 3 months. So when he told me that, and he shared with me a couple of videos, Dr. Ken Berry on YouTube, who's really awesome about the carnivore stuff. I watched him, and I was traveling. I was back visiting my mom in the East, and I just ate, what my mom eats. And so, some yogurt with some sugar in it. And I came home, just felt like crap. I just felt crappy. So March 16th is the day I got home. I haven't touched a vegetable or a carbohydrate or a sugar since March 16th. And what's today? October 28th. So that's when I started, is March 16th. And I've just been eating meat, and it's BB Beanie, bacon, beef, butter, and eggs. That's all I eat every single day. I eat nothing else. No vegetables, no fruit, no carbohydrates, no nothing. And that's when it started. And it was, really the impetus, the why, or why did I do it, was because I was seeing all these I have a list here. I've got a list, 37 different symptoms that I was experiencing prior to March 16th.
And how many symptoms are you at now?
They're all gone.
Wow. That's significant.
Nolan, they're all gone. Now to be truthful, I've got this one spot on the top of my head. I used to have 4 or 5 of them. I got one spot still that, kind of like they call it, old people's head, or whatever. I've got a little tenderness on the side of my cheek or from the cancer, but I couldn't touch, like I'm rubbing it. I couldn't do that before March. I was seriously looking at the doctor to, get this. I got a little redness in my cheek, right? But this is nothing compared to what I was. I got these on because I'm used to wearing them. They're magnet gloves, and they heal the hands and whatever. My hands hurt all the time. I had gouty symptoms in my ankle. That's completely gone. I can go on and on. Bloating, gas, swollen joints. Reading. Oh, I needed reading glasses, and I almost never use them anymore. I snored.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't snore. I peed every 3 hours at night. I could sleep all night. I had gum bleeding, gum pains. I had to clean my teeth every 6 months. I don't do that much anymore. I was hungry all the time. I was overeating here. I could just get down. Recovery from exercise, I love it, but I couldn't do one heavy exercise and the next day do a heavy one. I couldn't walk long distances every day. I had to kind of break it up. I walk slow. Liver spots all over my head, ankle swelling, bruising on my shins, My bowel movements were crazy. Fingernails were, not growing very fast. I was real sensitive to sun. I had to wear clothes, itchy spots, eczema in a couple different places. Um, I'm so much stronger. Nights, every night I'm very much warmer because I'm eating meat, but I don't sweat at night ever. Sensitive skin from shaving, that's gone. I get suntan now. I couldn't get a suntan anymore. I'm a sun lover. I loved it. Wasn't getting sun. So, I mean, these are just things. My
Oh, that's
blood pressure
interesting.
was 136 over 86, but that's the way it was my whole life. It is now 124, 126 over 80 or 82. Um, that's all the things. They all went away. Cataract went away. I had floaters in my eye. They're gone. I got um, high blood pressure, reading glasses, snoring. Yeah, all those things.
Man,
I kind of
I'm exhausted just hearing those symptoms, and you had to live with all of those.
and they were all like low level stuff. I had a
Mm,
cataract. It wasn't really bothering me, but I had floaters.
yeah,
But I have some friends that have 50 floaters. I had 5 or 6. My
yeah.
red face was a little bit when I looked at alcohol. I don't drink, but when I have a sip of wine or I get a little embarrassed, whatever. It was all low level stuff. But it was creeping up on me.
So when I hear that all you eat is beef and bacon, eggs and butter, I think a lot of people are like, that sounds like the ultimate meal. But then I think, do you ever get tired of it? Because it just sounds like, the same thing every day, every day. Don't you eventually get like, bacon again? Although I'm sure everyone's like, how could you say that? Bacon is delicious
I
forever.
love bacon.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Nolan. Um, First of all, let me say this: what are you eating? Meat only? I have not had a vegetable since March. What? I mean, that to this day blows my mind. Fruit? You haven't had fruit since March? Huh? I mean, eat your vegetables, right? Isn't that what we've been hearing our entire life? Fruit's natural, it's normal. You got to eat some fruit. That's your normal sugars, right? Little carb, brown rice, you got to eat some brown rice to make you poop better, right? You got to have some fiber. I mean, my brain, whenever I tell people I'm eating only BBB&E, beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, and actually that's even pared down a little bit. I'll talk about that. But my brain goes like, where's your vegetables? Where's your fruit? Where's your fiber? It still does to this day because for 40 years I was, and if you came in to see me, I would say, moderation. Well, I am not a moderator. I can't do a little bit of carbohydrates. I can't do a little bit of fruit with sugar in it because next thing I know, I'm out to dinner and there's a dessert and I'm eating half the dessert and having a glass of wine and my sugar is all screwed up. So
Yeah.
I I have I am eating basically beef and water and salt every single day, and I am absolutely positively not sick of it. I absolutely love it. You know why I absolutely love it? Because every single day, for a bunch of reasons, but every single day I just feel absolutely fantastic. I have zero symptoms like I read down the whole list. I mean, I can go down the list and I don't have them anymore. I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. And, once in a while, if I screw up, my finger gets a little sore, but I am blown away by how good I feel. So I particularly don't, because I'm eating, and it's so simple to eat. I eat one time per day, one and a half times per day. You know what I
Wow,
do?
that's it.
Yeah, I eat at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's all I eat. The rest of the time,
Wow.
I'm not hungry, Nolan. I'm not.
That is mind blowing.
When you eat the proper human diet, which is ruminant animals, red meat primarily. You get all the nourishment you need. You get all the vitamins you need. You get everything you need. You are satiated. And when you're satiated, you're not going to the refrigerator every 5 minutes to graze for something to eat. I ate all day long. I'd wake up in the morning and think, well, let me see. Yesterday I had some yogurt with some sugar, a little sugar in it, and a couple of things of popcorn. So today I got to be a good boy, and let's just do a spirulina fast, and maybe a big salad or something for dinner today. Let's not eat anything. So I had to like really think about. And tomorrow I'm going out with some friends, and my wife and I were going out, so we'll probably have a glass of wine. So I better be really, really good today, because I know I'm going to be eating a little sugar tomorrow. We may have a dessert. We always do when we go out, blah, blah, blah. So you see how my mind was like completely consumed with what I was eating and what I was going to eat next. And even so far as 2, 3, 4, 5 days in the future, and thinking 2, 3, 4 days in the past, what did I eat a couple days ago? Because God, I'm feeling a little bloated and I gained a couple of pounds and blah, blah, blah. So now I just think I wake up, pull a couple of pounds of meat out of the freezer, put it on the table, let it thaw out. By 3 o'clock, it's thawed. I cook it up, eat it, and I'm done.
And you only cook the meat with salt? That's it?
That's it. That's
wow.
it. Because.
What do you.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, are they like steaks, or do you cut them up and saute them? Like how do you prepare it?
Good, great question. So I eat mostly ribeye and mostly hamburger, those two together. So ribeye, if I go up to the grill, I live in a condo, I'll go up to the grill and cook it. Or I've got one of those Ninja grillers, the air fryers. Cook it in the Ninja. That makes fantastic ribeye. Or I'll cook it in the pan. I'll do the hamburger and I'll just throw the ribeye in after the hamburger or whatever. So like what I try and do is cook 4 or 5 pounds of hamburger at one time on one day. And then I put it in the refrigerator. And then if I want to dip into it, like I may eat a ribeye at 3 o'clock and then come around 5 or 6, I'm starting to get a little hungry. And I don't want to go into the evening hungry, because the evening time is the tough time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I may have another half a pound or 3/4 of a pound of hamburger at 5 or 6 o'clock or whatever, just to completely cool out my whole evening. So I have other meats too, but I cook with ghee, or I cook with the fat that I get from draining off the hamburger. I'll cook with that as well. I don't use any spices or rubs or anything in my food, because it triggers me. So I don't want to be triggered to potentially want to eat something with sugar or MSG in it or something like that. So I know that I am massively sensitive to how I eat now. I'll give you an example. So I was eating BBB&E, right? Beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. I changed and so what I was noticing is I did absolutely fantastic. The first 2 months I was doing 80% of that, and then I would have a little bit of chicken on the weekends, especially because then Blandy would cook on the weekend, so she would do some chicken or turkey or some fish or whatever. And I would, like you say, I get a little tired, so I have some heavy cream in my coffee. Try to get some variety in my meals,
Yeah.
What I started to notice was every Monday my hand would hurt, or I'd get the aura of gout in my toe or a little bit, or I'd get bloated and be a little gassy, or my skin on the side here. This is my big meter. This would get really sensitive. In fact, to this day, if I touch a little food that doesn't feel good, this will get sensitive. So this is my sensitive meter. My face would get a little more red. So I had these little things that if I ate eggs, if I ate butter, if I ate heavy cream in my coffee, this would get, as I said, all those little symptoms would pop immediately back on Monday. Bam, they're right back. Have a glass of wine, bam, they're right back. And so I just noticed that eggs didn't agree with me, butter didn't agree with me. I'm like, wait a minute, what the heck? I guess I'm going to become what do they call those people that just breathe air and live on air? Aeritarian, no, there's something.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, these great yogis in the Himalayas live on air, As if this was intense, Nolan. It was really intense, And so I decided after a couple of months that what really served my health was eating basically beef, water, and salt. And so I seldom eat pork. I seldom eat fish. I do not eat eggs anymore. I do not eat butter anymore. I eat ghee. So I made my own ghee, clarified butter. Take all the bad stuff out, all the proteins out of it and stuff like that. So it's just clarified butter, and I don't eat eggs anymore. So you know what? I feel amazing doing it that way. I mean, I feel it took what some people say is you can do the keto diet, you can do the dirty carnivore, dirty keto, which means you have, a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you do really, really well. People will do really well with that. But if you want to go, that extra 5%, you just explode in health. And that's what I noticed is that I'm getting rid of my belly. I lost 7 inches off my belly. Well,
Wow.
just going beef and water and salt, I lost another 2.5 inches off my belly. I mean, my belly fat is going away. I may end up with a 6-pack ab at 67 years old.
Wow, an ab per decade of years that you've been alive.
And no, I could not get a 6-pack ab when I was in my late teens, early 20s, when I
Yeah.
was intensely exercising. I mean, I used to intensely exercise, and I was so jealous of my friends that got these beautiful abs, and I said, "How do you
Yeah.
guys do that?" I couldn't do it. And I realize now why I couldn't do it was because I'll use the word allergic, but I was really sensitive and allergic to carbohydrates and fat, or fatty foods, sugar. And so I was
Mhm.
always bloated. I was bloated my entire life.
So just for clarification, because you're saying you eat B, 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 and E, which includes eggs and butter, but you're saying that eggs and butter don't agree with you. So you actually just eat B,
B
right?
and G,
Right?
B and G, B and
What
G,
is? Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So
beef
so
and beef.
that so that's where you're at now after learning that. But for
Yeah,
most who do try to eat carnivore, they generally eat um bacon and eggs and butter too.
yeah, B and E,
Okay.
the beef, bacon,
Okay.
butter, and eggs. That's kind of the carnivore. And then, again, for variety, they may throw in some fish, they may throw in some, chicken.
Yeah.
But chicken really throws people off in a really big way. So most people don't even eat chicken anymore because it's just it's too high in protein, not enough fat. And that's so my brain is still fried. So the next thing I'm going to tell you, Nolan, that's going to blow your mind is that the fat ratio from protein to fat is really, really important. And the thing that you really want to eat is or the thing that you really want to make sure that you get in your diet is the good fats, the high fat, the saturated fat from the beef and the ghee. So you really got to eat a lot of fat. Because remember, I'm eating no carbohydrates. So I have to get energy from some place, right? And you get
Hmm.
energy from two sources, carbohydrates or fat. And so if you just eat a high protein food and you're not getting the fat, you're going to get really tired and sick. You have to eat a lot of fat in order to take that fat, put it in your body, do the whole thing, and then end up with glycogen. And then the liver turns that into glycogen in your blood system, and now you have energy. I am what's called now fat adapted, which means I eat practically zero carbohydrates, and yet I have as much or more energy as what I had prior to doing this because I'm getting all of my energy from a healthy liver.
Hmm.
Interesting, right?
I so the interesting part about that is we've been, especially when I was young, we were taught so much like fat is bad, and like when we get the piece of meat or chicken, we as kids would cut off all the edges
Take
and
the
stuff like
skin
that.
off.
In fact, my stepkids do that, and I always go like, "That's where all the flavor is." But so what is your explanation for that? Because I think many of us we were just ingrained that fat is bad, but you're from what it sounds like, fat is the source of energy that we could get instead of getting sugars and carbohydrates to fill that.
Yep.
service, right?
It's not only the source of energy. It's a great question. It's also the source of healing. Your
Oh.
body has to have the appropriate fat in order to heal. And so, because what are your nervous cells made up of? The nerves that go down your spine, what's it made up of? I mean, it's made up of proteins, yes, of course, but it's completely enclosed in a fat molecule. And so if you don't have appropriate fat, your nerves are going to be frayed and they're going to get sent. So I watch a lot of people, they come in with sciatica, they come in with all these nerve ending diseases. And, if I could have, in the old days, talked them into eating more good saturated fat, I know they would have healed a whole lot faster. So you need fat in order to heal the body. The mind is made up of, like a lot of people say, oh, you need sugar to feed the mind. No, that's wrong. You need fat to feed the mind. You need the fat in your system so that your liver will convert it to glycogen, which will then give the glycogen the proper amounts of sugar and fat together to heal your brain. So brain fog goes away, depression goes away, other mental conditions go away. I mean, they're just gone. I have patients that I'm coaching over the phone or whatever. Brain fog is gone. Mental clarity is way up. Mental diseases some of them are like gone. I mean, people tell me they're depressed, they're sad all the time, they can't get out of bed in the morning. That stuff is like almost a no-brainer on the carnivore diet because of the fat. And we've all been. They did some studies way back in the day, right? And so they did these studies on fat, on meat consumption. And this is what they did, Nolan, and this is so crazy. They did this study and they said, okay, what's the SAD diet, the standard American diet? You eat some vegetables, you eat some protein, you eat some fruit, right, and some carbohydrates. So the three is, vegetables, meats, and carbohydrates, right? Those are the top three. And eat them within moderation, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we ate this meal in moderation. And then the scientists said, well, what happens if we give people more meat? Let's give them more meat and more saturated fat, meat with fat on it. Let's do a study on that. And so they gave these people with that diet, they just added meat to it. And then they looked at the outcomes of that person's, biomarkers, their cholesterol, their, health disease, heart disease. They looked at all that, right? Well, What you notice is that if you add more meat to carbohydrates, what you're going to get is a more diseased body, because I'm going to give you a vision to see this on. Do you know how they make Elmer's glue?
I just assumed it was from the horse's hooves. I don't know if that's correct or not.
It's kind of sort of correct. So they basically take a carbohydrate-like thing, and they take fat from the horse's hoof, and they combine them together, liquefy them, and then let it sit. Now you got Elmer's glue. Well, when you eat carbohydrates and you eat fat, you're putting Elmer's glue in your body, and that's what's sitting in your gut. And so they looked at this, and there was like a 1.5% increase in heart disease. But you know what the headline said? Eat more meat and you'll get heart disease.
Oh.
Now, truthfully, it was like a 1.5%. But the headline was eat more meat and you'll get heart disease. And so what do you remember? You remember, oh, well, I eat that saturated fat, that more fatty stuff, I'm going to get heart disease. Whereas truthfully, it's like a tiny bit more. And who benefited from that? And by the way, you remember, you remember having to eat margarine and not butter?
Yeah. Right.
Low fat stuff and not
everything is fat free. Yeah.
Today it's all fat free. Well, they're taking all the healing out of the food, right? But the reason why they do that is because now they can add sugar, which is highly addictive. Now they can add these seed oils, which is really cheap to make. I mean, seed oils so they could take the fat out of yogurt and add some seed oils to it to give us a different kind of fat, and it's like cheap. And it tastes just as good to people, and it's way more addictive. You put some sugar and you put some seed oils in there, man, you got something that is ultra addictive, and now people are buying more of it and eating more of it, and they're making lots more money. So if you want to just get way healthier, you take out all the seed oils completely and totally, eat zero seed oils. including olive oil, and eat zero carbohydrates. You'll get healthier. Eat your vegetables, eat your meat, but take all that out and eat the fat on the chicken, eat the fat on the meat. Fat's so good for you.
So when you had brought up earlier how, the common question, even for yourself, was like, where do I get, the fiber and the roughage that, I used to get from vegetables if all I'm eating is meat? So what's the answer to that? What's the explanation for that? How are you able to have like normal bowel movements and stuff like without all
Great,
that greenery?
great question. So what I found out and what I know now is that you don't need fiber to have great bowel movements. In fact, fiber does nothing for you. Then you put it in your mouth, it sits in your stomach, and it passes out into the toilet. All it does is just move through you. It gives you zero nutritional value. You don't get anything from eating fiber, except for
Interesting.
good bowel movement. Except for good bowel movements. Now, I'll admit, I liked pooping when I ate a lot. I mean, you could get a really nice, gigantic poop.
I didn't know this is where we'd go in this conversation, but here we are.
I'd smell up the whole condo and I would kill everybody off. And sorry about the conversation, but
No.
and it was like having a baby. Not really, but okay, I get it. But you know what? I poop just as well. The volume is not there because I'm not eating that kind of fiber, but I poop just as well. In fact, it's way easier. It's way more. It's not as, it's not that kind of, but my poops don't smell.
Hmm.
I don't have gas. I don't have gas every day. I mean, I used to, pride myself on how much I could kill my wife, with gas. I don't. In fact, she gets mad at me because she has more gas than I. I actually shouldn't say that live. Edit that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It was just a
uh,
figure of speech,
yeah, just a figure of
not
speech.
to be taken literally.
So really, I forgot what your question was, but
No, I was asking about because we had always been taught that, in order to have healthy intake of fiber and the vegetables help make us regular and stuff. It's like nature's a broom to sweep out our intestines and stuff. And so
yeah,
when I
yeah.
hear just only eating meat, my brain imagines like, oh, there's all this like red meat just stuck in the intestines, and there's
Another
no
great
greens
question.
pushing out. Yeah, right.
Another great question. Really great question. So first of all, you don't need the fiber. The fiber is a misnomer. You
Right.
just don't. Okay. But secondly, when you eat meat with the grains and the vegetables and the fruits, the sugars and the carbohydrates, the meat will take second fiddle to digestion. And so yes, the meat will stick in your gut if you're eating all that other stuff combined,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's kind of where we got started with this was they did those studies and they added meat to the SAD diet, the standard American diet. Well, if you take out the carbohydrate, the fiber, the vegetables, the fruit, the sugars, all the crappy food, and just eat meat, your body digests the meat just perfect. I mean, so if I were to say to somebody if they want to at least get healthier, just eat meat at say 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then if you want to eat your vegetables or whatever, eat that at 6. Because now
So
you're
you're
giving.
saying you can still eat vegetables if you want. It's not you're not what you're not um championing is getting rid of vegetables altogether. Just for you personally, you didn't need the vegetables and such, but others can still get similar kind of results from a diet if you're separating vegetables from meat. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's called the keto diet, which is
Oh, okay.
eating some vegetables and some meat. Well, I felt like I wanted to give my body the utmost chance to heal to the greatest, and so
Mm-hmm.
I decided to cut out all vegetables, everything, all vegetables, all everything, and for at least 1 year. And so until March 16th happened, I'm not going to eat any vegetables or fruits or anything.
So what
In
what
one,
was the negative of eat? Because I understand the fruits because of the sugars and for your body sugars are bad.
yeah.
But what are the negatives of vegetables for you?
Well, you got vegetables. Number one is they're not essential. So you can't just live on vegetables alone. You can't. There's not. They're not essential for life.
For the
And some
human
people
body, right?
for the human body, yeah. You
Yeah, yeah.
know, so for us, red meat in particular, is the only really the highest thing that you can eat for essential for life. I mean, there are all vegetables, all vitamins, all minerals, everything is in red meat. Including a whole bunch of stuff. But I'll leave it there. So vegetables are not essential. Now, some people say, "Oh, how about the micronutrients?" I'm like, well, you don't need the micronutrients either, especially because most vegetables, the nutrients, even the micronutrients, are only about 20% available. So, yeah, on paper, they got all these nutrients, but really only 15 or 20% of them will even enter into my body because of through the digestive process and through all the things that happen to them. So I realized that vegetables are not really, you know, all that good for me, there's not that much value to eating vegetables for me. You do get some carbohydrate, you do get some fiber from them and stuff like that. But I didn't need the fiber. I don't want the fiber. I don't want the carbohydrate. I want to get down to just this baseline health. And so I decided to just do away with all vegetables and all fruits and all carbohydrates. And so that's the main reason. But what I'm also learning is that a lot of vegetables have anti-nutrients. Like these are all new terms to me. And what the anti-nutrients means is that things don't want to be eaten in the world, and so vegetables can't, bite. Like a lion will run from us, or kill us, if we're trying
Yeah,
to kill
yeah.
it. It'll defend itself. Well, vegetables can't do that. So what they do is they have these natural poisons to us that we're eating them. A lot of them are called oxalates too. So you're eating these vegetables and they're actually creating you feeling not that good by eating those spinach is big time. It puts out a lot of anti-nutrients. And so you're eating a lot of spinach and it will make your body feel so good. Let me point it out to this way. How many kids do you know that says, I don't like those vegetables? And you're killing the kids to try and eat vegetables.
Right.
I think is because they have their natural, they don't have the mental mind yet. They don't have that built up. Their body is just telling them this is poison to me. I shouldn't be eating this. And so they're naturally, because they're in that natural space, they know, they're all smart, so they're pushing away things that are poison to them.
And so then, do you know where it came from that we as a species deemed it so important and necessary to change that natural aversion to vegetables
Yeah.
and make
Yeah.
them such a popular thing for us?
There's a big historical ancestral. So ancestrally, we're meat eaters. Way
Uh-huh.
back in the day, we were meat eaters, and then we would, great. So then you come. So then we also noticed though that come wintertime, we needed to store some fat on our bodies. So the end of summer, there was berries and there were some roots, and so there were some high carbohydrate foods that at the end of the summer that we needed to eat in order to get some fat on our belly so that we could go through the entire winter time, because maybe food would be harder to get in the wintertime. Maybe we
Yeah.
couldn't go as far distance to go hunting for something. And so the world was kind of there where we would eat meat all year long, and then come September, October, November, I'm just going by our seasons, we'd have to go out and gather some berries and do some digging for roots and eat some greens and eat that stuff so that we would get some fat on our body. So ancestrally, we were 99% meat eaters, and then occasionally we would eat the berries and the other things. And
Hmm.
so, and then came the revolution, the farming revolution, where the grains,
Um,
and then when that came, it was really easy to bring the vegetables and the grains and all that stuff to people because we were growing it, and then we could just bring it to market and sell it to them. And that's when we started seeing all these arthritises and heart diseases and all that stuff come to fruition. There was no heart disease and no cancers and stuff like that. Now, some people say, oh, that's because we were living such a much shorter life. But that's not true. Even in the shortened life, there was all these diseases that come to play once we started eating grains and vegetables.
I can guarantee that if there's any children listening to this episode right now, they are like singing your praises and be like, "See, mom and dad, I told you, broccoli is the devil." Little 5-year-old
Right.
me is so mad that my mom forced me to eat those things.
I can't tell you how many vegetables I gave my dog, and the dog didn't eat it either. He just spit them out. He spit them out too, but got off the table. But if and there are a lot of carnivore moms. Like I'm in chat rooms, and I've really embraced this. So I want to learn from as many people as I possibly can. And there are a lot of carnivore moms that are giving their kids, bones to kind of suck on and teeth with and stuff. So they, it's a big thing. So they can put it in their hand and kind of suck on it and get the bone marrow and hamburger on their plate, so that they're not going to take a piece of meat and choke on it or anything like that. A
Man,
lot of moms.
this is so fascinating, and with everything new, it always starts with a little bit, that sounds crazy, but the more you get educated about it, the more you realize, oh, there's so much knowledge and science behind it, and it's not just something where it's like, hey, I'm just trying to make you do something stupid like a TikTok dare or something like that. So I know that you've been trying to share your experiences and what you're learning as well about this, and you've been putting out some YouTube videos about it too, right?
Yeah. My YouTube channel is Healing with Carnivore. That's my YouTube channel, and I'm tiny. I've got a couple hundred subscribers, so I'm definitely looking to build that
That's
up.
awesome.
And I like making videos. I used to make a lot. I was very popular on YouTube years ago, but it's a long story. I'm not that popular anymore, so I'd like to build it up. I'm trying to do a YouTube video every week.
Oh, wow.
I try and do it short, but lately they've been getting a little bit longer than I like. But
You got a
because
lot to say.
yeah, quick and fast, right? People want
Yeah,
quick and
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
I promise
Yeah.
I'll get, but and you may not know this, but like I'm on Dr. Ken Berry is one of the more popular ones, but he'll have a Zoom meeting. It's not Zoom, but whatever he uses for his meeting, and there are
Hmm.
3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10,000 people on that meeting,
Wow.
and on his TikTok channel there might be 80,000 people, and his
Hmm.
YouTube channel has 100,000 people, and then Sean Baker has more than that, and Steak and Butter Gal has 100,000 people, and so this is not a tiny little like 15 people or 20 people on a podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
um, there are some really, really, and I'll mention Sean Baker again because he's got a company called Revero, Revero, and he's raising money on whatever one of those sites are that you raise money on,
Hmm.
to do actual, because there's real no studies around meat and fat and like that. What the studies that they've done is they've taken the standard American diet and added meat to it and then studied it and said, oh, meat's not good for
Oh,
you.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And that's
I see what
not,
you're saying.
that's not the way. If you want, and yet, and they do and then with vegetables they go, oh, we'll just give them vegetables, but then they do the same thing. So more vegetables and your standard American diet, you'll do better, because the
Hmm.
vegetables don't interact with the carbohydrates the exact same way that meat and fat interacts with the carbohydrates. And so you'll get a little bit better of an outcome by adding more vegetables because you'll feel full. So you'll eat less junky food. So the results will be better adding more vegetables to the SAD diet, standard American diet. But it won't be if you add more meat to that diet because of the interaction, the chemical reaction with which meat has with crappy food. That makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point of putting it on the a fair and even playing field, um, and 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 I think that by
Yeah.
pairing all of these things together, and seeing how they interact with each other isn't a fair litmus test of the single source that you're trying to test. So yeah, it
Right.
makes sense.
So that company Rivero is raising money to do independent studies, a totally independent study on meat, just eating meat,
Mm,
and none of the other junk along with it. And they've raised about $5 million so far. They're getting ready to do the study, and it's just gonna. And I can tell you, being on his what am I on his YouTube channel and other things, that there are thousands, and I'm talking thousands and thousands. And like I'm on Ken Berry's, live presentation of 3,000 people, and he'll say, "How many people have lower blood pressure since starting carnivore?" And you'll go, in the chat box. Everybody, I do,
yeah.
I do, I do, I do. How many people have gotten rid of diabetes on the carnivore? How many people have no more, acid reflux on the carnivore diet? How many people have had, it's just endless. You'll just see the chat will go, with thousands of people saying, I got rid of it. And so, I mean, all the gut issues you were talking about earlier, they're gone.
Hmm.
GERD or gastral influx, gone. IBC, gone. I've coached so many people around gut issues, is gone. Thyroid stuff, gone. Cataracts, floaters, blood pressure, all that stuff gone. Diabetes is
Wow.
simple, 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 simple. Pre-diabetes is a no-brainer. Gout's a no-brainer.
Well, this definitely has been pretty eye-opening, and I was really curious about it, and the things that you've brought up have been really, really interesting to me, and I'm really grateful that you took this time to share about it and to open up about your experiences too. Are there other things aside from your YouTube channel that you'd want people to be aware of? Do you want people to connect with you or?
Yeah. So look, I'm passionate about this because, like, I was
Oh, I
passionate
can
about being.
tell. Yeah.
I was passionate about being a chiropractor for the many years, and so I would, anytime somebody would get me to talk about chiropractic, there I was with my elevator pitch. And so this has changed my life. And I've coached a few people and it's changed their lives. And I see so many people's lives being changed on the YouTube. So right now, yeah, the YouTube channel, Healing with Carnivore, is a great way to see some other stuff about me. But I want to coach people. So I'm
Mm,
happy to give out my email address to people that they can connect with me. I'm happy to do a free half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it takes, consultation for free, and we'll get to know each other. And if we're a match, you like me, I like you, and you feel like we could work together, then we'll figure out how to work with you, and I'll coach you. I'm basically doing it very, very inexpensive. I'll just say it's $250 for 5 coaching calls on the phone, half hour calls, and you can use them any way you want, once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever you want. And then, we go from there. If you need more, you need more. If you don't need more, you don't. But I'll definitely get you started. I'll point you in the right directions. I'll give you all the free information you can get, and we'll go from there. So my email address is Oscar Nancy Sam, ONS at protonmail.com. So ONS at protonmail.com. Now, you may have links for your
yeah.
podcast that they get to.
Yeah, we'll put links to that and your YouTube channel in the show notes in the descriptions, so that way
Yeah.
people can connect with you. But this has been awesome, and you've always been such a a type of person that really wants just people to be healthy, feel good, have better lives and stuff. So I really appreciate that I've gotten to connect with you, because whenever whether it's through chiropractic, through this, I know that what your heart is and what your passion is just helping others because of what you've seen it do for you, and you just want to share that. So that's why I dig you, man. You're a good person.
Well, you're the same way, Nolan. It's why when I thought of you, I didn't think of you, by the way, to do the podcast. I thought of you because I wanted to say hi and give you some love. But there, when I thought, oh, the podcast, I was like, Nolan is the guy I really want to do, because your heart and your love for life and people as well. I mean, I know we're brothers. We're brothers from
Yep.
another mother. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for allowing me to, you know, hopefully people get some value out of this, and hopefully people get online and start looking for the carnivore online on YouTube, watch some videos and get excited and doing it and changing their health,
Yeah,
because it's
at the very
it's
least,
actually,
it'll open up the mind to curiosity of learning more
yeah,
for sure. It's
yeah,
been really eye opening for me.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
great. It's
thanks,
wonderful.
Lenny.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for inviting me. Bye, everybody.